each round. Bonus discovered. Silverback Challenge. Redden's Rally. Round. Bonus room discovered.
Welcome to the Coalescence Corporation free-run training immersion. Here, you will learn the basics of movement, using your augmentations in concert with your propulsion system. Easily done. As you'll soon learn, your propulsion system will allow you to perform far greater feats than that. Chaining movements allows for smooth, continuous motion. Well done. Now proceed down the course. Now, let's try some basic weapons work. Good work. Now let's try some wall runs. While wall running, the smart materials in your gloves and boots will change their properties, using van der Waals forces to secure you to the surface while you traverse. Now try jumping from one wall to another. Fire while wall running to engage enemies from unexpected angles and directions. Well done. Good job. Let's move on to maneuvering in a subaqueous environment. Your augmentations and modifications allow you to remain active while submerged for a while, but you can still drown if you're not careful. Well done. Now see if you can use what you've learned to complete the rest of the course. Well done. Now see if you can use what you've learned to access additional courses. Completing those courses will further hone your mobility skills and lead to higher lethality in the field.